Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Oh boy. Hare Krishna. Oh boy. All right, give me a chance. Question. All right. So, I'm a little bit to the left. Doesn't line up perfectly. Therefore, before we begin, yeah, this doesn't. It's not right on here. It's not going to work. It has to be a little bit to the left. Well, the best way is to line it up. This right here.
He's back. He's back.
Okay.
Better, huh?
Yeah. Now it's too hot in here. I gotta take this off.
Are you still cold? Are you don't know? Okay. covered?
I can always put it back on. See if this works.
Alright, what is it?
I don't think this can work.
I don't know what he's gonna do tonight. Chance his name. That's what we chanted with
Yeah, he gave class?
He gave class, he kind of just gave an overview of different stuff. We did chant 19.
All right.
So whatever you want to do.
Yeah, we'll probably do 19 again, because if I recall, because I also gave the class on those verses last night, right? But I don't want to skip it, because I didn't really read the purports thoroughly. All right, let's just get going here. Okay. All righty. So 19 is the one, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate
Om Namo
Vasudevaya.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
On the second day of February 2026 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 16, entitled The Divine and Demoniac Natures. Text 19 at the bottom of page 632. Tan aham dvishatak kruran samsareshu naradaman chapami ajasram ashubhan asurishu eva yonishu tanaham dushtakruram samsareshu naradaman chapamijasam ashubhan asurishveva yonishu tanaham dushtakruram samsareshu naradaman chapamijasam ashubhan asurishveva yonishu. Go ahead, you can chant. Chant. Tanaham dushtakruran. Lady side. Samsareshu naradaman. Chapamijasam ashubhan. Asuri sheva yonishu. Go ahead. Tanaham dushatakuram. No, he's chanting. I'm replying to him. Good. Second. Samsareshu naradaman. Chapamijasam ashubhan. Asuri sheva yonishu. He's chanting. I'm replying. Okay, ladies. He's leading. I'm replying to him. And you all, don't you understand? He doesn't understand. Okay, you go, Chad. Did you lead already? You did it already.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Ladies. Tanaham dushatakuram. Samsareshu naradaman. Chapamijasam ashubham. Asuri sheva yonishu. You want to try? Not yet. Okay. How about you? Are you a Sanskrit scholar? Okay. Anyone online? Okay.
Dravida Prabhu, Prem Gopal, and Vanessa.
Go for it.
Tanaham Pishita Kruran
Tanaham dushata kruran
Samsareshu Naradhaman
samsareshu naradhaman
Jipamejashamashuban
chapam vijashamashubhan
Ashureshveva Yonishu
asurisheva yonishu
Tanaham dvishata kuran
tanaham dushata kruran
samsareshu naradaman
samsareshu naradhaman
Shipami ajashram ashubhan
chapam vijashamashubhan
Asuri shiva yonishu
asurisheva yonishu. Okay, word by words. Tan, those. Aham, I. Drishatak, envious. Kruran, mischievous. Sangsareshu, into the ocean of material existence. Nara Adaman, the lowest of mankind. Chapami, I put. Ajasram, perpetually. Ashubhan, inauspicious. Asurishu, demoniac. Eva, certainly. Yonishu, into the wombs. Translation. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Purport. In this verse, it is clearly indicated that the placing of a particular individual's soul in a particular body is the prerogative of the supreme will. The demoniac person may not agree to accept the supremacy of the Lord, and it is a fact that he may act according to his own whims, but his next birth will depend upon a decision of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and not on himself. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, it is stated that an individual soul after his death is put into the womb of a mother where he gets a particular type of body under the supervision of superior power. Therefore, in the material existence, we find so many species of life, animals, insects, men, and so on. All are arranged by the superior power. They are not accidental. As for the demoniac, it is clearly said here that they are perpetually put into the wombs of demons, and thus they continue to be envious, the lowest of mankind. Such demoniac species of men are held to be always full of lust, always violent and hateful, and always unclean. The many kinds of hunters in the jungle are considered to belong to the demoniac species of life. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So this chapter is entitled The Divine and Demoniac Natures, and for the last number of verses, Krishna has been describing the demoniac natures. In fact, the majority of the chapter is used in that regard. So, he says, it begins with they, those who are envious and mischievous. And that describes the previous verse, bewildered by the false ego, strength, pride, lust, and anger. The demons become envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in their own bodies and in the bodies of others, and blaspheme against the real religion. And then this is what happens to them. They're envious, mischievous, lowest among men. He cast into the ocean into various demoniac species of life. So there's demoniac human species, and there's also many lower species than that. So you may very well lose the human form of life. This is the danger of acting without any reference to the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and so forth. People generally, they have no idea. They don't even believe in life after death. In fact, I don't know if you know this, you probably do, that there's a serious decrease in church attendance in America, in the West. And I kind of see it on my morning walk, although I'm walking at 6:30, you go to the 7, you don't expect to see the churches full at that time. But still, even on a Sunday, you know, you can see they're not preparing for a big crowd to come. And that's generally because of the spread of the materialist culture in the West. And it's not just in the West. You have westernized India also, where there's a increase in materialism and material values, and a lack of prominence of instructions that we get from Bhagavad Gita and so forth. So Srila Prabhupada, when he came to America, he was going against the tide. I mean, this is the early 60s, mid 60s, and there was a big drug culture going on, and free sex and so many different things. But he was undeterred, knowing the power of the holy name and the power of Lord Chaitanya's movement and the strength of the philosophy that Krishna gives in the Bhagavad Gita. So this chapter is very sobering, actually, because we should understand that, as Prabhupada explains in his purport, that there's a higher authority, that we're not independent in deciding what our destiny is going to be. We have a certain amount of freedom. We can choose so many different things, but we don't have if we don't have the proper criteria for how to choose what to direct our energies toward, it's very likely in this age of Kali, in this culture, that will be influenced by the lower modes of nature. And if we're not exposed to the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, or not attracted to it, then we're kind of at the mercy of the lower modes of nature, and the chances are that we're going to be suffering a lot. That's the idea. So Prabhupada makes the point here that, it's all under control. That Krishna is the ultimate decider of the destiny of every living entity. But he delegates that. It's not that Krishna is personally deciding. He's personally deciding, but he's doing it through his expansions, through his energies, through the demigods. They're also working that, and managing the hellish planets are run not by Krishna personally, but the different agents of Yamaraj and so forth. So there's a structure. And it's completely just. Everything is we get our just desserts. And I always think, how does that spell? D-E-S-S-E-R-T. That's how you spell the word dessert. But no, this dessert is D-E-S-E-R-T because it's placed on the word deserve. You see, deserve. So you get what you deserve perfectly. So that the fact that there's a perfectly just system is encouraging for those who want to try to become elevated. Because they know that, well, if you follow the rules and regulations and you mold your life in such a way that you do good, then you become elevated. Now, many people think, okay, great, I can go to heaven, and I'll go to heaven. But heaven is not what we want to go to. Because heaven is where the demigods are. Lord Indra, right, Indra Loka. Kamais taistai rita jnana papadyante anya devata tangtam. Niyam asta prakajani taksveya, I think that's the word. But that first line, when the intelligence is infused or infected, if you will, by material desires, different varieties of kama, material desire. Kama, rita jnana, steals away your real knowledge. Papadnyante anya devata, they surrender unto other devas beside me. Different, Indra is the common one or whatever, in order to go to the heavenly planets. And relatively few, but some are able to actually go to the heavenly planets. Krishna describes in the 9th chapter. But he says there that, I forget the Sanskrit now, but there they enjoy godly delights, but after some time, their piety is used up. It's pious credits. Just like you put your money in the bank, and then, I got credit on the credit card, But if you just go on a spending spree without wondering what your balance is, after a while the credit card comes out and said, "Oh, Mr. Smith, sorry, you have another card." This one, So that's what happens in the heavenly planets. And after your pious credits are gone, boom, down you come again. Chine punye martya lokam vishanti. Chine punye means your punya, your pious credits, become skinnier and skinnier. Chine means, and they exhausted. Martya loka mishanti. Krishna doesn't mince words. you know, in the Bhagavad Gita. It's not that you come down to earth again. No, you come down to the world of death, martya lokam, birth and death. So what did you gain? You wasted all your time getting to the heavenly planets, and even though you can live there a lot longer, maybe millions of years, but still, you're not immortal. Down you come again to birth and death, to suffer karma, and you know, who knows, this time you maybe go to the other place. You know, so that's discouraged in the Bhagavad Gita, several places. So what is the solution? The solution is to go to that place where you never have to come back. In several verses in the Bhagavad Gita, just to describe the spiritual world, Yad Gatvana Vartante Tadama Paramang Mama. Having gone there, you never come back. And he's also, the first verse, I think, in the Gita that describes that is in the 4th chapter, where Krishna describes his birth and activities, and he says, Janma karma chame divyam, evam yoveti tatvataha, chakva deham punar janma naiti mameti sojana. So his birth and activities are described very nicely in books like the Srimad Bhagavatam and so many writings of the Acharyas, right? Srila Prabhupada has translated them. And Bhagavad Gita also describes this wonderful pastime on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So one who understands in truth, very important word, tatvataha, not just some vague idea, but in truth, that my birth and activities, janma, karma, is lila, which are divine, divyam, evam yoveti tattva, knows them in truth, that chakva deham, when giving up the body, we all have to eventually give up the body. You know, you don't die. Nobody dies. The jayate mriyate vakadashan. We don't die because we're not the body. Of course, the body dies. But when the body dies, you go on, and what determines your destination? Your activities and the consciousness you have created by those activities in your lifetime. Now, if you don't have any guidance about how to work and hear and chant and you know, guide your consciousness by the higher intelligence, then you're going to come back again to another material body. Maybe human, maybe not. But on the basis of the Bhagavad Gita and other knowledge Srila Prabhupada has given us through Bhagavatam and so many other sources, then we know what we want to read, what we want to chant, what we want to do, what the desires we want to cultivate. In other words, forming our life according to the instructions of the process of the bhakti path. Then our destination is very auspicious. We may not go back to Godhead in this lifetime because we're so conditioned, you know, but we won't lose anything. Next life, you'll be a human being. And you'll be a human being able to take up Krishna consciousness. Most auspiciously if you're born in a family of devotees, you know. So that's all a plus. And then you make further progress. And then before long, there you are, back to Godhead. You see? That's the whole program. So in this chapter, Krishna is describing the other alternative. You can cultivate the qualities that he described after the beginning. The first part, few verses, are described as saintly qualities, self-control and all these different things, charity and all this. But then there's the demonic qualities, which is kind of, he starts out with one of the main verses, asatyam apatishtam te jagadahu anishwaram aparaspada sambhutam kimanyat kama hoitakam. This is a very nice verse. So the demons, here's their beliefs. Asatyam, there's no ultimate truth. There's no foundation of everything. Apatishtamte. Jagadahu, they declare, they don't just believe and say maybe, no, they declare, they're sure. There's no Ishvara, there's no God. Jagadahu and Ishvaram. Then how did everything happen? By chance, aparasparasambutam, after billions and trillions and millions of years, the things came together and they formed eventually a one-celled, organism, and then after another trillion years they come together. It's all by chance. There's no ultimate intelligence behind it. There's no God. So this is the basis of the demoniac view. There's no ultimate control. There's no ultimate arbiter of what's right and what's wrong. There's certainly no life after death. YOLO, right? Haven't you seen that? You only live once, right? Isn't it? And what goes along with the YOLO is FOMO, fear of missing out. Therefore, let's enjoy as much as possible, right? Isn't that the mood? The atheistic mood. You can only believe that if you don't think there's a God. You think that's why when we read in the Bhagavatam the stories of Hiranyakashipu and the others, they're so angry with Prahlad because he believes in God. He believes there's someone beyond the strength of his father, his demoniac father, you know. And for that, quote, sin, eventually his father wants to kill him. But he's so powerful because his faith is so pure and his concentration is so pure that not only doesn't he perish when he's thrown into the vat, you know, the vat of boiling oil, but he doesn't even feel any pain, just like Haridas Thakur. He's protected from everything. And that's very frightening to his father. And you know the story. He's eventually destroyed by Nrsingadev. So this is the Bhagavad Gita in various places, I think in the Gita itself and also in lectures. The Bhagavad Gita is meant to instill faith in us, in Krishna, and in the process of devotional service. And Prabhupada does it not only with the translation, but also with his wonderful purports. So if there's no comments or questions on those, let's move on. So he continues to describe the fate of the demons. Asarim yonamapanna mudha janmani janmani mama prapyaiva konteya tato yancha damam gatim. Attaining repeated birth amongst the species of demoniac life, O son of Kunti, such persons can never approach me. Gradually they sink down to the most abominable type of existence. Purport. It is known that God is all-merciful. But here we find that God is never merciful to the demoniac. It is clearly stated that the demoniac people, life after life, are put into the wombs of similar demons, and not achieving the mercy of the Supreme Lord, they go down and down, so that at last they achieve bodies like those of cats, dogs, and hogs. It is clearly stated that such demons have practically no chance of receiving the mercy of God at any stage of later life. In the Vedas, also, it is stated that such persons gradually sink to become dogs and hogs. It may be then argued in this connection that God should not be advertised as all-merciful if he is not merciful to such demons. In answer to this question, in the Vedanta Sutra, we find that the Supreme Lord has no hatred for anyone. The placing of the asuras, the demons, in the lowest status of life is simply another feature of his mercy. Sometimes the asuras excuse me, are killed by the Supreme Lord, but this killing is also good for them, for in the Vedic literature we find that anyone who is killed by the Supreme Lord becomes liberated. There are instances in history of many asuras, Ravana, Kamsa, Hiranyakashipu, to whom the Lord appeared in various incarnations just to kill them. Therefore, God's mercy is shown to the asuras if they are fortunate enough to be killed by him. So this is, I can assume that within this, that anyone in this room doesn't want to go there, doesn't want to get that kind of mercy from Krishna, right? This is part of the, you know, the justice system. It's justice, just like, but it all depends on the mentality we have when we leave this body. That's really what it depends on. If you cultivate this enmity toward the Lord and passion for sense gratification, and especially if you become violent toward the devotees, then you're going to suffer a lot of punishment. I remember when I was working on the Bhagavatam, I was proofreading, and then I became an editor. So the first time I think we encountered the description of hell, which wasn't that long, but it was still scary. It was in the 3rd canto. I believe the teachings of Kapila, I think he has a short, description there. But in the 5th canto, it becomes a lot of details about, what you do and what you get for it. Like if you become too addicted, an alcoholic, and you die completely alcoholic, then in your next life in hell, you're forced to drink molten lead or something, for thousands of years. They keep pouring it down. Yeah. It seems like that. This is the thing. It's all on the mental platform. You don't have a gross body. It's just not your mind, but you can suffer in your mind. And it seems real, and it seems like a million years, but it's just the interval between leaving this body and going to the next body. This is what's one of the amazing things about Krishna consciousness. When you learn about the life of Brahma, Brahma's pastime, which is very delightful, where Krishna's out in the forest with his friends, and he's playing, and he sits down to take lunch on the bank of the Yamuna. And Lord Brahma has been watching, and he sees Krishna's playing, and he says, this is my Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he decides to play a trick. He's not going to hurt them, so the boys are absorbed in taking lunch or breakfast, I forget, and I think it's lunch. And the calves, these are calf herd boys. Krishna's a small boy, and the calves wander off to find their nice grasses in the forest. So suddenly they realize, oh boy, we're responsible for these calves, and they're gone. What are we going to do, Krishna? So you just keep taking lunch. I'll go get the calves and come back. So he goes and goes. He can't find the calves. Comes back to the bank of the Yamuna. The boys are gone. So Krishna, okay, this is Brahma. He knows because he's omniscient. So Brahma has wanted to see if this is really God, this little 5-year-old boy, 6-year-old boy. Doesn't make sense. But he's already killed the Gasura. That was what he did before. Then they took lunch. So Brahma has witnessed this amazing thing, so he wants to test Krishna. So anyway, so Krishna says, okay, this is Brahma, I understand. So he then manifests an exact number of boys with all of their idiosyncrasies, how they dress, their personality and everything. And the same thing with the calves. So then he continues playing. Now this all came about because during the pastime, Shukadeva is explaining in Parikata, he says it wasn't talked about, because usually Krishna would kill some demon and then all the boys would glorify him, and then when they get back to town, oh, Mom, there was this big stork that came and swallowed up Krishna, and then he broke out, he came and the stork was there, it was amazing. And the mother said, oh yes, Krishna is so wonderful, But this time, they didn't say anything about the killing of Agasura. Because it's a different set of boys. Those boys are asleep in a cave So that was puzzling to Parikata. Why was that? And Shukadeva is explaining, because Brahma did this. But his 5 minutes is a whole year down here. The time is malleable, So he wants to see, well, how is Krishna reacting? His boys are gone and the calves are gone, so he must be pretty puzzled. He comes down and everything's the same. There's the boys, there's the calves, but it's all year has passed. So Brahma realizes that something strange is. So then he checks, and he says, "Oh, those other boys are still there. So the real boys, So he realizes, oh, Krishna's done all this. It's amazing. So now he's really impressed. He comes down, and he offers his obeisances with all 4 heads to little Krishna, and he starts offering these wonderful prayers. Chapter 14 of the 10th canto. So that was the first I understood the incredible malleability of time. You see, but a similar thing happens when we leave the body, because we can spend what seems to be thousands of years getting punished in hell. But actually, it's just the time it takes for us to go into the next body, you see. And then when we get into that body, then our mind is, maybe a dog's body or whatever, we continue. But it's still a real experience, even though it's just a mental experience, but it's very real. So that's, I think you want to ask a question. Go ahead.
Is it whatever time is there after death, for the living being, 5 minutes for whatever is 10 years for us, for them it is much more.
Yes, million years.
Million years.
You have to read the 5th canto if you're ready for it. Do it during the daytime.
And whatever Brahma's time is there, that is less for. That is more for us. I mean.
Yeah, Brahma. It was just like a few minutes, because he was, he wanted to test. So it was just a few minutes for him, but it was a whole year down here.
That means higher planets, the more lesser the time. Here it is more, and.
Well, yeah. The thing is, that this happens more than there's more things. There's I forget what the name is, but there was some king who was fighting for demigods, And then he went to Brahma. He went, it was something having to do. He wanted to get some arrangement, and so when he came up there, he laughed. He said, because now that you've come here, all those, your wife, your children, the daughter you want to get married, it's all gone. Your kingdom is gone. You go back there because the time is compressed. So yeah, it's a different time scale. That's the thing. Even you remember the story of Kali Yavana, who was he was killed by Muchakunda. If you remember the Krishna book, this is one of the battles that Krishna had in defending Mathura. Jarasan attacked so many times, But then at one point there was this Mlecha, Kali Yavana, who'd been empowered by Narada Muni somehow, and he had millions of soldiers, and he's also heading toward Mathura. So Krishna told Balaram, this isn't good because we'll be busy with Jarasan and Kali Yavana will come and he'll overwhelm Mathura. So at that point, he had Dwarka created, and he transferred all of the residents to Dwarka from Mathura. So Mathura was deserted, so he didn't have to worry about Mathura. So anyway, this Kali Yavana, I think he took care of Jarasan's army. Then Kali Yavana, Krishna just ran. This is called Ranachur, where he runs from the battlefield. So he's running, and Kali Yavana says, hey, I thought you were, such a powerful fighter. Come on, fight me. And Krishna doesn't answer. He just keeps running. So Kali says, oh, I can run faster than him. So he ran. We can't catch him. So he runs up into the mountains. There's a mountain there. And Krishna, is quite a bit ahead of him. He hides in the cave because he knows Muchakunda is sleeping there. See, Muchakunda was fighting helping the demigods. And he was very skillful for many years, So finally they won a battle, so they asked, well, whatever boon you want, you can have. He said, I just want to sleep. I haven't slept in so long. So okay, you go to sleep, and you'll get the boon that no one can wake you. I think he asked for it. If anyone wakes me untimely, then I can, take care of him. So he got that boon that he could incinerate anyone just by looking at him. So Kali Yavana didn't know any of this. So he's running after Krishna. He just can't catch him, and he runs up into the mountain, and Krishna goes into the cave where Muchakunda is sleeping. And then Kali Yavana comes in, and he can't see very well. It's a dark cave, but he sees a figure sleeping there. So that must be Krishna. He's tired. He's taking it. So he goes and he kicks him. But it's not Krishna. It's Muchakunda. He wakes up. Who's that? And he looks at him and burns him to ashes. So then there's a wonderful exchange. And Muchakunda is actually a great devotee, and he offers these wonderful prayers to Krishna. He comes out behind, So then he leaves the cave, and he's amazed. Everything's so small. The trees are small, because it's a different age, and everything shrinks down, over time. I mean, who knew, But that the same thing is there with time. Time also is malleable and like that. So. And that's why you get to the spiritual world, there's no time. There's a verse. Shriya kanta padamaparusha kalpatadavo dhruma bhumischinda managana mahito himamatam kata ganam natyam gamanam apibangshi priyasaki chedanandam joti padamapitadasvajamapicha. Next verse. Sayatra chiradi savadisadabim justisumahan nimeshara kyova vachidindihiyatra pisamayak bhajeshweta dvipam tamahamaya golokamitiham vidantaste santak chitividanachara kitipaye. So what it says is, this is the end of Brahma Samhita, near the end of the Brahma Samhita. And he's giving these verses describing Goloka. So the first is Shriya Kanta. That all of the beloveds of Krishna there are goddesses of fortune. Shriya Kanta, and their Kanta, their dear, most Padamapurusha, the Supreme Person Krishna. Kalpadadavo Dhuma, all the trees are desire trees. Here we had these wonderful grapefruit. You remember that? Did you get some of the grapefruit that came off the altar? And Nityananda's appears. Incredible grapefruit, So, and also I'm seeing mangoes. I don't know, they're not locally grown, obviously. It's the wintertime, and from Hawaii or Ecuador or something. So, but if you see the grapefruit tree, you won't be able to get the mangoes. You get the mango here, But there you can get any tree. That's where the Kalpataru is. So all the trees there are desire trees. Dhuma bhumis chindamanagannamahi. All of the land is made of chintamani. Chintamani gems. Probably call it touchstone. A touchstone, as I looked up, because I'm an editor, you look up in the dictionary, it's a stone that you touch gold to see if it's genuine, you know. So it's actually philosopher's stone, they call it. But anyway, it's a special stone that, you know, it's alive, chinta. All the water is nectar, all the walking is dancing, all the speaking is singing. And one can always hear the the flute in the distance of Krishna. His dear friend, the flute. Now, Sayatrakshir Abdi. The cows, the Surabhi cows are everywhere, and they're always pouring their milk on the ground. They're so joyful. So there's milk everywhere, you know. And then here's the line I was doing. Nime Shardak Yode, not a moment passes away there. It's an eternal present. Nobody's getting old. Nobody's getting born, you see. Everybody's all in their, you know, eternal ideal age for their rasa. You know, there's older ladies and gentlemen, you know, the Krishna's parents and the elder gopis, but they're eternally that age. You know, so that's the spiritual world. There is no time, but in the higher planets, time moves at a different rate, but it's still going on. You know, eventually you have to die. So, what did I just read? 21. We're on 21. Okay. Okay, so repeated births, gradually they sink down to the abominable type. Okay. So by God's mercy, He kills the demons and they get Swarup Mukti. It's a type of Mukti they get. 21. Trivadam Narakasjedam Dwaram Nashanam Atmanaha Kama Krodha Tatalobhas Tasmari Tatvayang Chajit. Now, this is where I started the class on Sunday. Yeah. Yesterday. There are 3 gates leading to this hell. Lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man, every sane person, should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. Purport. The beginning of the demoniac life is described herein. One tries to satisfy his lust, and when he cannot, anger and greed arise. A sane man who does not want to glide down to the species of demoniac life must try to give up these 3 enemies, which can kill the self to such an extent that there will be no possibility of liberation from this material entanglement. So, now as I mentioned in the class last night, we learned about these way back in chapter 2. The ayato vishayan puksa sangasteshu bhajayate. That if a soul who is who has no familiarity with this important knowledge, then you simply, whatever environment you're in, the senses are looking for things to enjoy, right? And from the very childhood, you know, this is your life, you see. And ideally, you become educated, and that, no, you can't just do whatever you want, right? I mean, even the ordinary education means that you have to go to school, because if you don't go to school, then you'll suffer. The parents know that. I don't know if any kids spontaneously want to go to school. You know? I think there's a I didn't. But okay, but there has to be some discipline there, so that you're infused with some knowledge, so that you can navigate life, right? Possible. But if it's material, if there's no spiritual values being inculcated, then that education ultimately is just part of Maya. It gives you a way that you can better enjoy your senses. Okay, now I got my education. You know, now I'm going to go to Wall Street and really make some money. You know, I can enjoy it like anything. So this is Maya's realm. And if you're simply absorbed in ways that you can enjoy, you know, eventually or immediately in various different ways, then that's the demoniac way of life. You'll develop the qualities mentioned at the second part of the chapter here. So Krishna's, you know, this is the fate, Kama, Krodha, Tata, Lobha. So there's these 3 gates leading to hell: Kama, Krodha, and Lobha. And without higher guidance, you're going to develop these somehow, you know, because especially in this age, where you're surrounded by, you know, now, you know, they're trying to outlaw phone in some schools so that the kids can't have the young kids can't have these cell phones. You know, I'll tell you a story. This is a true story. in Alachua. I used to go there every year for maybe 10 years. And they had a school that was run by Lakshmi Moni, who was like one of the original persons who were teaching, especially girls' school, gurukuls. And it was a very successful school. And people would send their girls there from different parts of the country, so they could get trained. And then at one point, it was stopped. And then after maybe a year or so, I asked her, what happened with the school, Well, of course, there was also a boys' school and then girls' school, they're separately trained, But the boys would see the girls and the girls would see the boys, so, all right. But they were being trained. But then the cell phones came in, And if one girl has a cell phone, they all have to have a cell phone. You can imagine it. So then they have these cell phones. But cell phones means at any time, you have your cell phone. So it turned out the boys were texting the girls and the girls were texting the boys and things like that. So it kind of undermined the discipline of the school. And she found that that particular technology was making it impossible to really train the girls, like that. So they can discontinue the school. And that's what happens in the material world, is that some material advancement can change everything. Prabhupada would often talk about the skyscrapers, when he encountered New York. I don't know if they had any in Bombay at that time, but whatever they were a lot less in New York. New York is famous for them, But he would say, well, yeah, this is just an effort, to increase the eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. He would boil it down to those four. Of course, there's varieties of all of them, but it's basically self-centered desire to enjoy the senses or the mind, and it obliterates or obscures usually any interest in spiritual matters, higher matters, because it's all based on self-restraint. If you're going to sit and chant Hare Krishna, it means you can't be doing other things there at 7 in the morning, like sleeping, That's the big thing. That's the first step in spiritual life. Got to get up early, right? If you start sleeping in, that's a death knell for your spiritual life. So, how can we be inspired to take up these austerities? We have to come in contact with someone who is embodying this higher consciousness. And that was, Prabhupada, when he came, he gave so many gifts. The gift of knowledge, of course, the holy name, that was a tremendous thing, the most valuable thing, But he also gave the gift of his own association. And that was so important, because they saw someone who was elderly and everything, not in the best of health, but still very enlivened and very blissful and very peaceful and embodying the qualities that he's describing in the Bhagavad Gita. So by that association, your faith is increased in the process by which you can also become, distinctly, have the ability to say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to chant Hare Krishna. I'm going to go to the temple. And before long, Krishna is giving you so much nectar, from the altar and from his, the process, that you lose your taste. This is right in the Bhagavatam. First canto, second chapter, right near the beginning, describing what is the supreme dharma. I often think there's about 18, 19 verses, beginning with, less than that, maybe, anyway, less than 20 verses, beginning with chapter 2, text 6. And the question of the sages was, what is the supreme dharma? Savai pungsang paro dharma yato bhaktir hokshite. That supreme dharma, the answer is very distinct and succinct. That which engenders pure devotion to Krishna, the transcendent Lord. And the very next verse is pertinent to this. It says, Vasudeva Bhagavad. Vasudeva is the name for Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. By practicing bhakti to the Supreme Personality of Godhead named Vasudeva, Vasudeva Bhakti Yoga Prayojyat, Janayati Ashu. In other words, Janayati is one of these cognates. The Sanskrit has so many. Like the most obvious one is Nama and name, obviously, right? Tumulu, tumultuous. There's so many. So another one is this janayati, which is something like generate, isn't it? Generate. So it generates, ashu, quickly, vairagyam, detachment. If you're really practicing this bhakti sincerely, then you'll get detachment from all those things that you were addicted to. because you're becoming attached to Krishna. Krishna is all attractive. That's what his name means. Krishna. The two syllables. Krishna is the attraction and the na is the bliss. Believe it or not. Yeah, there's a verse about that. So anyway, that's the great blessing. If you just chant Hare Krishna, that's why just chant. You know, don't worry about any of this other stuff. You just chant with us, you know. And if you start chanting, you know, your consciousness is going to be changing from within. Krishna's changing. And you see your addictions, you know, LSD back in the 26nd Avenue. He says, okay, you know, I don't want that. You become more addicted to Krishna. Okay, it's getting late. So anyway, we'll complete this chapter tomorrow. And as I mentioned last night, the last few verses of this chapter, I always thought, beginning with 21, which we just chanted, the last 5 verses, really embody an essential lesson for all of us, and because it ends with an essential instruction. Therefore, you have to accept the Shastra as your guide, your evidence, what to do and what not to do. And having understood that, you have to, you know, avoid those things that you shouldn't do and do those things you should do as a matter of duty. In other words, I may not want to do it, but I understand the need for it, and that'll come out good in the end. So that's the whole chapter ends with the glorification of Shastra, the last 2 verses. So it's very important, and we'll complete that lesson tomorrow. Yes, go ahead, because it's going to, we have. Well, I'll try to answer this question real quick.
So,
go ahead. She got it. He turned it on. Hold it close.
whenever I feel low or I have doubts,
Yes.
Krishna will send some message and he will come up on my screen or through somebody. But still I believe in Krishna. I know he chose this life or whoever in my life is. But still I feel sometimes I get hurt.
Uh-huh.
And with my kids or anybody in my life. I know Krishna chose this for me. Why do I get mad or sad at times?
Because the thing is, we're conditioned. Conditioned means we have certain habits of thought and activity, and if we're not consciously trying to guide our mind in a certain way, then those will come up, and that will affect us. And this is the important. Do you regularly chant? You need to chant japa. You do? A minimum of 2 rounds, and then go up from there. The chanting, because Krishna's there in His holy name, and He'll give you from within. He'll inspire you, and He'll also guide you in how to become stronger in your Krishna consciousness, and will make your consciousness more steady, so you don't feel that you're losing control. That's what I advise. That's how I started. Chanting 2 rounds, and I went to work. I had a job. I was driving the job. So that the whole key is the holy name. All right, and usually we end with a little poem, so I don't want to disappoint them. So, let's see. Okay. Vidachita mahidandam. This is a nice verse about it. The chataka bird. Chataka bird. He only drinks water that falls from the sky in the cloud. Okay, I'll dispense with the Sanskrit. The chataka subsists on rain it catches in midair, and so is always praying to the cloud to send its fare. Fare as it means food. Yet though that cloud may send a thunderbolt instead of rain, that bird continues praying fervently despite the pain. Just like the chataka, I fix my mind upon one goal, and that is you, O Lord, most kind to every fallen soul. So whether it is punishment you give or mercy sweet, I'll always pray to you for service to your lotus feet. So there's a whole commentary that can be given, but we'll do that tomorrow if you ask me. All right, we better adjourn. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. And we'll begin with 22, right? Yes. All right.